Welcome, jesters. It's not often that we have an opportunity to right one of the many wrongs of the Democrat Party. And I am talking specifically about the retrocession of the Northern Virginia Territory, or southern part of the District of Columbia, that was returned to Virginia back in the 1840s, right? So to catch everyone up very quickly, Article 1 of the Constitution provides for a territory, a federal territory not to exceed 10 square miles that would serve as the seat of government of the United States. About 10 years after that, through various legislative acts in Maryland and Virginia, culminating in the District of Columbia Organic Act, the two territories were handed over to the federal government for use as the federal capital territory. However, in subsequent years, the Congress, the federal government, proceeded to completely neglect the Virginia Territory on the south side of the Potomac, leading the residents there to basically bring up the same issues that they're bringing up today: lack of investment, lack of opportunity, lack of representation, which actually leads to the question of why do we need Congress? Really? Because all this does is show that the Congress back then was just as much a bunch of clueless idiots as they are today. Right? Things haven't really gotten any better, so why do we keep them around? But anyway, different videos. So, however, at the time, something else was brewing. The abolitionist movement was growing, particularly in the North, and this was going to come to the District of Columbia eventually, including the territory that Virginia had ceded to the District of Columbia. And this is something that, well, the Democrats couldn't stand for, right? They had to keep their slaves no matter what, which led to the Retrocession movement, which culminated ultimately in the Retrocession Act of 1846, which provided a mechanism to return the territory previously held by Virginia back to Virginia, so it could continue to be a slave territory. So, yes. Now, before anyone, well, you know what? I want you to look into this because, yes, this was entirely a Democrat movement, right? The Democrats had swept, apparently, the 1845 Virginia elections, taking the legislature and the governor's office. The Retrocession Act of 1846 was passed entirely by Democrats. They controlled the House. They controlled the Senate. It was signed into law by Democrat President Polk, James Polk. Anyway, Polk, he was a Democrat. So the retrocession of the former Virginia Territory back to Virginia so they could keep their slaves was unexpectedly entirely a Democrat movement. But it's even worse. It's even worse than that, because if you go and if you read the Retrocession Act, it includes some curious language, which should not surprise us that Democrats actually wrote this. So one of the provisions of the law was, right, and on the day and at the place appointed, every free, white, male citizen of the United States who resides in said county Alexandria for 6 months preceding the time when he offers his vote. Wow. Yes, they actually wrote that into the law. Right? But believe it or not, I mean, there's Democrats. It gets even worse. Okay. It continues. Insane persons and paupers accepted. Yeah. Shall vote. Okay. Oh, and shall vote by voice. We'll talk about that in another video probably. But yes, absolutely. So not only were the Democrats anti-black Blanco Supremos, they were also ableist and clearly the party of the rich. And let's be honest, they really haven't changed. And you know I'm right.